Coming up on this episode of Falmouth in Focus, we update you with the results of Tuesday's local election. We take a look at how herring tagging works on the Coonamessett River. We see how rain didn't deter a local restaurant from holding its annual Cinco de Mayo party. And a local man shares with us how his heritage influences his business. All this and much more on this edition of Falmouth in Focus.
Hello and welcome to Falmouth in Focus, FCTV's current affairs program. I'm Liz Lerner, the Membership and Outreach Coordinator at FCTV. We'll start this episode with the recent townwide election. Contested seats included selectmen, school committee, housing board, and various precinct-specific town meeting spots. The winners of the two selectmen spots are Megan English Braga and Ralph E. Herbst. Lee L. Palmer and Melissa M. Keefe will return to the school committee along with newcomer William S. Ryder. The town elected Sari D. Boudreau to the Falmouth Housing Authority Board. And the one ballot question passed 86% to 14%, allowing the town to approve a merger of the Falmouth Historic Districts Commission and the Falmouth Historical Commission. There's an end in sight for Falmouth's traffic detours. The town recently released its latest map outlining when and where roads will be closed. Sewer installation on Route 28 finished on May 10th, but is still happening in Mara Vista Avenue, north of Randolph Road. Approximately 200 feet of Mara Vista Avenue will be closed at a time as the sewer installation progresses. Falmouth Heights paving continues the week of May 16th. In most of those roads, final paving involves paving of a portion of the road, but some will be paved for the full width. Former Lawrence High School basketball star Michael Lopes was recently honored for his role in leading the school's team to a state championship in 1963. Mr. Lopes' jersey now hangs in Falmouth High School's field house, and an old photo of his team was given to him at the ceremony. He was also celebrated in an event put on by Falmouth's No Place for Hate group at the Cape Verdean Club in town later that evening. A story we shared with you last episode, Heroes in Transition's Ruck Run, a 275-mile trek from Ground Zero in New York City to Falmouth, finished on Saturday, May 14th. A team of 12 runners completed the relay-style run while carrying 20 or 30-pound packs in 41 hours to raise money and awareness for service dogs for veterans who need them. Thank you to John Gamache for sharing the footage with us, and congratulations to all of the runners. In addition to the election, we have more information to share from Town Hall. Here are 3 takeaways from recent municipal meetings. Selections are chosen based on community impact.
Members of the community and fellow selectmen all took the time to show their appreciation for the 2 outgoing selectmen, Mary Pat Flynn and Rebecca Moffett.
Let it be known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Mary Pat Flynn and Rebecca Moffett for your outstanding commitment to the residents of Falmouth throughout the many years of dedicated service as member of the Falmouth Board of Selectmen. It's be further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends best wishes for continued success, and the citation is to be signed by the President of the Senate and attested to the copy here transmitted by the Clerk of the Senate. It's signed by the President of the Senate, Stan Rosenberg, by William Walsh, the Clerk, and by Senator DiMacedo on 5/16/2016. Congratulations.
We won't go through all the reading ours. Ours are very similar to what the Senate are, just a touch nicer. So
I had the honor and privilege to serve with you on the Board of Selectmen. We didn't always agree, but we always worked through the issues as we move forward, and we made Falmouth a better place because of it. I really appreciate the commitment that you both have made to this board. Most folks out there don't understand the number of hours it takes for each and every one of you to serve on the Board of Selectmen and the scrutiny that you may come under.
Selectmen continued on with their discussion of the Senior Center Building Subcommittee and who they feel should make up the board.
Once the building is designed, they're the ones making sure the building gets done the way we've asked it to be done. But I think there's still questions out there as to what the scope of this building needs to be, how big it is going to be, what are the programs that the Council on Aging did some great work with it, but I still think there's some questions out there that need to be answered. And I think we need to take a leadership role as the Board of Selectmen in getting those questions, find out what the questions are and getting them answered. And felt that a subcommittee of our board might be the best way of handling that. It's going to have to be a fairly quick working group to really get the public input, but to be able to give some answers to the architect and to the project manager and to the building committee This is where we're heading.
Interviews are scheduled for the May 23rd Selectmen's meeting. The Board of Registrars held a hearing regarding the residency of Selectman candidate Ralph Herbst. Jonathan Snyder of North Falmouth filed the complaint, stating that Herbst's primary residence is in Mashpee, not Falmouth. After hearing sufficient evidence, the board voted unanimously that Ralph Herbst is a resident of Falmouth, can remain on in the planning board, and eligible to stay in the running for selectman.
If you'd like to see the meetings in their entirety, check out FCTV's website for the Government Channel 15's programming schedule, fctv.org. For years now, Falmouth's restaurant Añejo has been holding a Cinco de Mayo celebration that benefits a local nonprofit. FCTV reporter Brian Sullivan tells us how the rain didn't deter people from attending.
It would take a lot more than rain, wind, and weather to curtail this year's Cinco de Mayo event at the Añejo Mexican Bistro in downtown Falmouth, but the elements sure did try. For the past 6 years, this little side street of Academy Lane next to the restaurant has been the site of this fundraising event, and each year seems to attract more and more people. Normally this event has the feel of springtime being in full swing and summer just around the corner, but if you can look, you can see the rain is pouring down on me, but that of course will not stop this. The tent is set up, the band is getting ready, and it should be a party pretty soon.
We've been doing this since year one, and it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Obviously the weather this year has curtailed things a little bit, but we're expecting once the band goes and everything gets going, it's going to be a crazy day, so it always is.
It didn't take long for the crowd to attract a bigger crowd once the band got going. And since they put up the walls and the tent, the people inside, for the most part, were protected from the forces of nature outside. But all of this is about more than just a party. It's first and foremost a fundraising event.
This is a collaboration between us and CCALS, which is a local group that does some work for the ALS Foundation. And so what we do out here is we do $5 margaritas, $5 beers, $5 burritos, guacamole, salsa. Everything outside is for $5 in honor of Cinco de Mayo, which is the number 5. And all the proceeds here in the outside tent go to CCALS. And then if you go inside, it's our normal restaurant. It's the normal things that we do. So.
Not to be forgotten in all of this is the help from the town of Falmouth and the Chamber of Commerce for allowing the restaurant to close off this street each year.
What a great job as far as the Cape goes in a Main Street area on the Cape, to just represent the people and to do things that the people really, really like to do. And Falmouth is on the map because the town does such a great job of allowing these kind of events.
And if it's your first time coming to this party, they want you to remember it for next year and be sure to tell your friends.
Mark this day on the calendar and know that you can bring your family, bring your friends, come down and have a good time.
Outside Añejo restaurant in downtown Falmouth on Cinco de Mayo, I'm Brian Sullivan for Falmouth in Focus.
Thank you to Brian for his work on that piece. It's now time for our new monthly feature, a fishing report from Ryan Collins, the creator of My Fishing Cape Cod.
The topwater action has really improved the past couple weeks here on Cape Cod. Larger stripers, well into the keeper size range, are starting to show up. Biggest I know of so far is 39 inches. This trip here, I was fishing with My Fishing Cape Coders Richard Banks and Steve Quitniak, and we were fishing in Buzzards Bay with topwater plugs. No shortage of action, no shortage of fish right now in Buzzards Bay. Another thing that's very interesting are the amount of pogies that are in many of the bays and harbors throughout Cape Cod. In this clip here, there's actually a seal, which you can see right there, chasing the schools of pogies. Now that much larger bass are moving in, I would think that the stage really is set for some awfully nice pogie blitzers. Now, big pogies are not the only bait that's around right now. Mackerel have also moved into Cape Cod Bay, and there have been plenty of squid in the sounds this spring. Speaking of spring, One of the best ways of exploring throughout Falmouth and Vineyard Sound and pretty much anywhere on Cape Cod is in the kayak. I've been doing very well fishing with small jigs and again small topwater plugs in the estuaries, bays, and harbors of Cape Cod. And at this time of the year, some awfully big fish will move into these bays, and I plan on catching fish up to hopefully 30 pounds from the kayak over the flats of Cape Cod very, very soon. Another species that's worth targeting right now from boat and from shore are blackfish, or tautog. And especially in the Falmouth area, many of the jetties and rock piles and rocky ledges in Buzzards Bay and throughout the Sound have plenty of tog right now. As I'm using right here, as you can see, a small little green crab, pitching it in close to the rocks. And these tog are great fighters on light tackle, and they are also just absolutely delicious to eat. So tight lines, take care. This is Ryan from myfishingcapecod.com, and I'll see you out there.
Thank you to Ryan for that great information. Look for his fishing reports on Falmouth in Focus once each month. We're about to take a quick break to learn about an adoptable dog from Friends of Falmouth Dogs. We'll be back with 3 stories with an aquatic theme: shellfishing, herring tagging, and the local spadefoot toad population. Stay with us.
Benny is a 1.5-year-old Newfoundland Great Pyrenees mix and weighs in at well over 100 pounds. He's a sweet boy, but still young and needs more training. We're looking only for families with experience with the extra large dog breeds. Benny's very smart. He can open doors, including his kennel door, cabinets, and refrigerators. He's a gentle giant, but is strong and gets excited on walks if, for instance, he sees a rabbit. He will need an owner who can handle his extra strength. If interested in meeting Benny, contact Friends of Falmouth Dogs at 508-548-7742. For hours and directions, visit www.friendsoffalmouthdogs.org.
Welcome back. FCTV's Jeff Wyman recently took a trip to the Coonamessett River to learn about a herring tagging effort that's underway.
Hi, I'm Andy Jones. I'm a volunteer with the Coonamessett River Trust, where we're here working on the Coonamessett River, looking for restoration ideas and biological data. So we're out here, we're giving people a tour and telling them a little bit about some of the outreach and restoration work that we're doing. And we're essentially working on river herring and thinking about restoration of the river. We're looking at how fast fish are moving through the river and where they're going within the watershed. To do that, we're putting out little radio frequency ID tags, and we're tracking them as they move upstream. And so we're getting all sorts of interesting biological insights about where they're going and when they're going, things like that. State biologists have been working on the river for decades, thinking about potential and trying to get it back to its natural state. Currently, the phase that we're in is really building public enthusiasm and trying to fill specific data gaps. So thinking about which specific features of the river are most likely to benefit from restoration, and then also sort of getting people on board with the idea that restoration activities will occur and that there's a great future for us if we go and try and achieve it. The primary data we're gathering is biological data, so that's information about the identity of the fish, whether they're alewife or blueback herring. Those are the 2 species that we call river herring as sort of a management term. And then we're also getting interesting information about their length, their sex, and we're getting interesting data about when they're moving. There's also interest in collecting temperature data to find out how the river temperature is fluctuating as fish are moving, things like that. We would love to know much more, but science is always sort of one of those incremental processes. So we're getting this set of data, and then we'll move on and ask other questions next. So there's interesting stories about herring population biology. We know if we go back and look at papers from, say, the 1920s, that herring were not very abundant then, and in part that's because people have had a long time to interact with them, and people tend to compete for use of the rivers with them. So at that point, herring were not very abundant. They resurged in numbers in the sort of middle of the 19th century, and then really succumbed to what we think is sort of more extreme fishing pressures at the end of the 20th century. And so now they're at a state of relatively low abundance, and that's concerning because they, in addition to being something that we were interested in fishing, they also have a lot of ecological roles, and so we want them to sort of come back and sort of maintain those, or bring back those sort of ecological roles that they play.
Thank you to Jeff for that piece. A local man is crafting quahogs into jewelry with his business, Wampanoag Shells. Marcus Hendricks explains more in this next piece.
I'm Mashpee Wampanoag and Nipmuc from Natick. So I grew up shell fishing and fishing during the summer months here on Cape Cod, predominantly from Barnstable and Falmouth. Grew up on the shell fishing on the flats and off some boats, but mostly quahogging and getting steamers. So harvesting the quahogs was like a fun activity growing up to get the kids involved in the heritage and in their culture, but also as a way of life and consuming what is part of the summer fun and festivities on Cape. This little quahog starts off as a seed right here, and each year it will have a growth ring similar to a tree. So this one here is, I haven't counted them all, but I would say this one here is about almost 75 to 80 years old. So there's several different ways of harvesting quahogs. You can use the scratch rake, which has different type of heads on them. I prefer just this scratch rake here. It's really easy to maneuver, lightweight, and you can actually use different techniques as well. The basket, I put a floating device on it, just a noodle. And then also you clip on using the rope, clip it onto your waist in the basket so it doesn't float off on you. As I was making the quahogs, I was fascinated with the color and the hue of the purple hue of it. I had reached out to family members in the tribe and asked them, you know, how to make the jewelry, how to make such a nice craft out of it. So you have to use protection. That's the first thing, because working with the dust from the quahogs, you can get really sick, and it also will clog up your lungs and things like that. So it has to be done in with water, underwater, and so you use a wet saw or a wet wheel, and you grind off the shell surface to create any type of object that you want to get. Sometimes you can draw on it, sketch on the outside, and then use the table saw, the wet saw, to design it. While I'm out there, I'm thinking about the different ways and many ways that I incorporate the shell and not letting it go to waste. I use 100% of the shell and the quahog meat in my way of life, in my business venture. The quahog meat is used for the stuffed clams, and the quahogs itself, the purple part, is used for jewelry, and the byproduct of the white part of the shell is also good for chickens, and you can give those to chicken for chicken feed. The quahog shell is it's one of the thickest and durable shells in the ocean, and it's one of the biggest parts of Cape Cod and the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe and other local tribes, because it's so durable and it supports the whole community.
Thank you to Marcus for his time for that piece. Lawrence School 7th graders are working on a project that's helping Mass Audubon and the spadefoot toad population. FCTV Channel 14's Ryan Weber brings us this next piece.
We've seen the decline in the spadefoot toad population. These are an endangered species. A lot of the students didn't think of any of these when they were naming off endangered species. They usually think of, tigers and polar bears, but there are some on the Cape. So the Head Starting project was created in order to give these spadefoot toads a head start and be able to survive in the wild. Classes around the Cape have been getting about 100 spadefoot toads like we have in here, and we get them once they have hatched from the eggs, and we are going to keep them until they finish their larval phase and metamorphose and get their legs. Once that occurs, Ian will come back and they will bring them to Ashumet Holly. They came from Sandy Neck Beach, and we're trying to repopulate them in Ashumet Holly. So we started this project 4 years ago, paired with Mass Audubon. Ian Ives from Mass Audubon and Chris Brothers started doing this at the high school with the AP Bio kids, and they brought it down to Lawrence for the 7th graders. We have been having in-class workshops, and then select students, a small group of students have been going out to the actual vernal pools at Ashumet Holly over in East Falmouth. Students have been doing the surveys of the artificial vernal pools, which are the recreated wetlands in areas that were formerly wetlands, but were plowed over and became farmland.
What I learned about the project was that how we're head starting them will help them survive when we release them.
What I liked most about the project was that we got to save those animals from dying.
Thank you to Ryan and Lawrence School staff and kids for that piece. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with Troy Clarkson's Take right after this. Welcome back. This episode, Troy speaks with the legendary Al Irish, a lifetime member of the Falmouth Commodores Board of Directors and the team's unofficial historian.
Thanks, Liz. I'm here at the Arnie Allen Diamond at Gov Fuller Field, the home of Falmouth's team, the Falmouth Commodores. You know, in 1925, Walter Percy Chrysler formed the Chrysler Corporation. A soon-to-be legendary man named John Scopes was indicted in Tennessee for teaching evolution in high school. Hall of Fame catcher Yogi Berra was born in St. Louis, Missouri. And in that year, another first of amazing proportions, of Falmouth proportions, happened here, right down the street on the Falmouth Heights ball field. That's where Falmouth legend Al Irish saw his first Falmouth home team baseball game. Now, they weren't called the Falmouth Commodores back then. That didn't come till much, much later in 1965. But 40 years earlier, in 1925, this young 5-year-old saw his first game of Falmouth's team. 90 years later, he's still at every Falmouth Commodores game. In fact, he mans the gate right over here, and he's at every game. He's a lifetime member of the Falmouth Commodores board, and he surely is a Falmouth legend. I had the opportunity to sit down with Al recently and talk to him about 90 years of baseball and Falmouth memories.
So we used to sit on the bank there and look out at Vineyard Sound. Then they had that house in right field where balls it was a short right field. Would hit the house and went for doubles.
Oh, if the ball hit the house, it was a double. Sounds like the old game of wiffle ball I'd play in the backyard. What branch were you in now?
The Signal Army Signal Intelligence Service. I was at Arlington Hall. You've heard of Bletchley in England?
Sure.
The one with the coats? Mm-hmm. Well, Arlington Hall was the equivalent in the United States.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes.
So did you crack any coats?
I didn't personally, no.
What's the future? The Commodores, baseball, Al Irish.
Well, it looks good, except for me. I'm going downhill. But the future of the league, I would say, was excellent. We lost one of the real backbone of the Cape Cod League, Arnold Mycock, who just died.
Saw that, yeah. Here's to another 96 years. All right, nice job.
We're blessed in this community to have someone like Al Irish who can capture nearly a century's worth of memories and share them with all of us. I'm happy to share them with all of you because that's really what this show and this segment is all about. So I'm glad we were able to spend this time together to share a Falmouth legend with all of you. I'm Falmouth Enterprise columnist Troy Clarkson, and that's my take. Back to you, Liz. We'll see you at the ball game.
Thank you, Troy. Our hashtag MyFalmouth feature at the end of each show is an opportunity for residents and visitors to share with us their perspective and their view of life in town. Whether it's landscapes, events, or moments that have touched you, we'd like to feature them. Send us your photos via email to liz@fctv.org or use the hashtag MyFalmouth and Falmouth in Focus to be featured on the show. Thank you to our most recent contributors. We're going to end the show like we always do with the sights and sounds from around town. This time it's from FCTV member Kevin Lynch's video of a recent award presentation from the Cape Cod Codgers to recently retired Recreation Department Director Helen Kennedy. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Falmouth in Focus. We'll see you next time.
I want to thank you today, Helen. Just come on over here. We were going to send you to Acapulco, but we were...
He had the money, what did
he so you should back. Anyway, through the, the good... Where are you, Steve-O?
Right behind you, Jim.
Come on over here, Steve.
I'll give him back.
All right.
Steve
had...
I want to talk to these guys and not the camera.
Yeah.
Helen Kennedy is a neighbor of mine in Fisherman's Cove, as our